Here's Forestieri, touch on his chest, back to goal. He's trying to tee it up for himself, turns, hits it and in! Sheffield United, 6 minutes until the break, Sharp with the header.
So, Johnny, what was your path into being a sports commentator for BBC Radio Sheffield?
To get to BBC Sheffield, I had to go a bit around the houses firstly. So I started doing radio when I was at university, did broadcast journalism at university, and was doing a lot for LSR, which was Leeds Student Radio, did their sports show on a Saturday afternoon, and in the process was also trying to get unpaid freelance work for a couple of commercial stations, which I eventually got. And then when I finished uni, got a full-time gig working for a radio station in Leeds, covering Leeds United, which was massive, which was a real good privilege to be able to go and do it, and to be able to follow those clubs that we also covered in the patch along with Leeds, which got my foot in the door for South Yorkshire. And then eventually, years down the line, the opportunity for freelance work at Radio Sheffield came up, which I took. And then, fortunately for me, a full-time job came up and they asked me if I'd like it, and here we are today, yeah.
On to BBC Radio Sheffield now. You've been at the radio station for 4 years this summer. What was your first day like, if you can remember, all those years back?
I remember my first freelance gig, which was a year before that, so that was 5 years ago. And the first game I got given to cover for the BBC, which was a big honour, first time for the BBC, having worked in commercial radio, which is brilliant, but it's the kudos of the BBC. And it was Crewe against Rotherham, when Rotherham were newly promoted, looking to carry on the momentum that they had. And they went to Crewe on the opening day, and they drew 3-3 on that day. I got a speeding ticket on my way to the game, which I didn't find out until later, obviously. But they drew 3-3 on that day. Lee Frecklington scored a late equaliser for them with a brilliant volley into the top corner.
All but one Rotherham player in the box. In it comes. It's not cleared. Ravel knocks it down to the edge. Frecklington with the strike! Oh,
since you've joined BBC Radio Sheffield, what has been your best experience so far? If you can pinpoint one.
Yeah, there's loads, you see. There are lots of scenarios that kind of jump out at you. And for me, this was a personal tick as well, was to commentate down at Wembley. And we had the Wembley double on a weekend, which was Sheffield Wednesday, who unfortunately were beaten by Hull City. I was doing the pitch side reporting for that day, so I actually got to go on the Wembley pitch, which I'm nowhere near talented enough to be on the Wembley pitch as a player, so it was the next best thing again. So I kind of fulfilled the prophecy that I wanted to as a kid, to get to Wembley somehow. And then the next game was Barnsley, and Barnsley went on and won that game, and they scored 2 early goals. I was doing the commentary.
Barnsley on the attack here, edge of the area. Fletcher can burst into the box, right footed strike by Fletcher, it's in! A wonder start for Barnsley at Wembley! Fletcher scores just 90 seconds in to send the Red fans into raptures! Forwards by his coaching staff, opens up onto his right boot, 25 yards out, will go for goal, Adam Hamel, oh my word! Absolutely spectacular from Adam Hamel!
Out of all the South Yorkshire clubs, in your opinion, which ground has the best atmosphere and best hospitality?
Oh, it's tricky, because they all have different atmospheres. I think that the view that we have at Bramall Lane is the best, I would say, of the bunch here. Really high up on a gantry, you're looking right down onto the pitch. It's a really good position to watch a game of football from. Sheffield Wednesday has the benefit of being sat in and amongst the fans, so you can really feel at the moment, probably venom and anger that there is at times, and frustration that there is at times. You really feel that. And you also, on big nights such as, you know, the win against Arsenal, I'm thinking off the top of my head, the win against Brighton in the playoffs, you know, when those nights come around, the place can be shaking in Hillsborough. So on its night, that's probably the best atmosphere.
As a Sheffield Wednesday fan myself, what's your most memorable memory whilst commentating on the club?
Well, the first lot of playoffs under Carlos Carvalhal it was a really nice feeling to cover those, because, you know, the fans have been waiting so long. They'd had so many problems over the years. You know, we know how they dropped down, and then they managed to get themselves back up again, and the change of ownership kind of sparked things, and Carlos had come in and you know, after maybe a bit of a shaky start, then got them going. And to get into those playoffs, to have such a brilliant performance at home against Brighton in that first leg, when the atmosphere was electric inside Hillsborough, they got a really good result, knew they could take that result then down to Brighton, and we went down there with them. Brian Laws was there with us thousands of fans were down there, creating a good atmosphere. They had to soak up a lot of pressure in that game. But sometimes they're the best games. When you're behind the ball, you're soaking up the pressure and you still get the result that you need, whether in a one-off game or whether it is in a playoff over 2 legs like that. You know, that was a great occasion to cover. Unfortunately, didn't go their way at Wembley. We all know what happened there, and they came so close, and Carlos was crying on the pitch and all those kinds of things. But those 2 games in particular were fantastic to cover, just because you knew how much it meant for these Wednesday fans who've been waiting so long to possibly get back to the Premier League, and unfortunately the way it goes on now.